All right, we are zeroing in now in this latest development. Brazil and China reportedly striking a deal to ditch the U.S. dollar to trade in their own currencies. The deal will enable the two economies to carry out trade and other financial deals directly, exchanging China's yuan and Brazil's real instead of converting their currencies into the U.S. dollar first. This is exactly what the CCP has been pursuing. Joining me right now is the Atlas Organization founder and the author of The Decisive Decade. Very important book. Pick it up. Author Jonathan D.T. Ward is here. Jonathan, great to see you. Thanks so much for being here. We've spoken a lot about the Chinese Communist Party and its goals to become the #1 superpower, and one way to do it is to get world leaders to forget the dollar and use the yuan to trade. What is your reaction to this?
Well, Maria, this is also why winning the long game against the CCP is about winning a battle for the global economy. I mean, China's going to take its dominance of international trade. It's been in the top position in goods trades for almost 10 years now, and it's going to use that to restructure the financial system over time. I mean, if they're able to conduct their trading relationships, their commodity trading relationships, all of that in RMB, and we're seeing that some countries are willing to do that, that's definitely going to have a negative effect on the U.S. position. And we're not playing the trade game to win. I mean, we have to have a strategy for the emerging world. I explain all of this in The Decisive Decade. You've got to push them out of the OECD, slow their growth down, reconstitute the world's trading relationships so they shift away from China and towards the alliance system. And in the meantime, this has nefarious effects, too. I mean, Brazil is essentially a neutral country that will hopefully wind up on our side as a democracy. But Putin and Xi Jinping in last week's meeting in Moscow, cementing their sort of axis here. I mean, Putin's just recently said, we are in favor of using the Chinese yuan in settlements between Russia and the countries of Asia, Africa, and Latin America. I'm sure these forms of payments in yuan will be developed between Russian partners and their colleagues in third countries. So you have sort of a joint Russia-China vision of making themselves more sanctions-proof, but also the negative effects on the world economy are very obvious. They see this as a strategic initiative, and it's why we can't allow China to dominate the world in international trade, among other things. We have to take these the economic arena very seriously. We're not doing it yet.
But we're not doing it at all. In fact, as we speak, China has most favored nation status when it comes to trade with the United States. So clearly, they continue to have this wonderful trading and export control over the United States. We're at a deficit there. And yet, look, not using the dollar presents a really big warning for U.S. lawmakers that they need to get something done here and they need to stop the CCP. Doesn't that hurt the U.S.'s ability to put sanctions on anybody? If they don't use the dollar, what do they care about U.S. sanctions?
Well, it certainly would, and you're going to see Russia and China doing their best to create an alternative economic order here. I mean, and I think people should understand what China's endgame is. This is not an endgame in which our companies thrive or in which American power continues to exist in the way that it has for the last 4 decades. So we have to win the economic arena. This involves securing our supply chains, getting our companies to change track. I mean, at the end of the day, they're going to be big losers in the China-led world. You saw just last week, the CEO delegation to Beijing, and the juxtaposition, I think, was often with the TikTok grilling in Washington. But really, the important juxtaposition is Xi Jinping going to Moscow, and then Tim Cook and Ray Dalio going to Beijing. I mean, that's how out of order we are, how out of whack we are. We don't have a grand strategy that includes an economic theory of victory. So that's what I've laid out in The Decisive Decade. How do you actually win the economic contest with China and use that to rebuild peace through strength and continue an American-led order? Because we're losing time very rapidly. Our businesses are not in the right lane here, and the geopolitical consequences are enormous.
Well, there were enablers to communist Russia, and there were enablers to Nazi Germany, weren't there? I mean, look, what does Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, and Ray Dalio not see what you're seeing and what you have been writing about for so many years? Look what happened yesterday. The president of Taiwan arrived in New York City for her first visit to the United States in more than 3 years. And immediately, a warning from China. China warning that her planned meeting with House Speaker Kevin McCarthy in California next week could lead to a, quote, serious confrontation between the United States and China. The White House is urging Beijing not to overreact to this trip. Here's what John Kirby said yesterday. Watch this.
Every Taiwan president has transited the United States. President Tsai Ing-wen herself has transited the U.S. 6 times since taking office in 2016, each time without incident. The People's Republic of China should not use this transit as a pretext to step up any aggressive activity around the Taiwan Strait. The United States and China have differences when it comes to Taiwan, but we have managed those differences for more than 40 years.
So does that mean anything to you, Jonathan? I mean, if they do, have a provocative response, I don't know what it would be. They're saying it's a serious consequence if Kevin McCarthy meets with the Taiwanese president next week in L.A. What are we going to hear from the United States? Oh, probably the same thing we've been hearing. We do not seek conflict from China. There's no consequences for anything the CCP has done.
Well, sure, they're getting away with a lot. And when it comes to the Taiwan relationship, we should remember that the Taiwan Relations Act, says that U.S. policy is to make clear that the United States decision to establish diplomatic relations with the People's Republic of China rests upon the expectation that the future of Taiwan will be determined by peaceful means. So the entire basis for diplomatic relations with the People's Republic of China has to do with essentially peaceful treatment of Taiwan. And Beijing has been upping their military pressure over Taiwan. They've made very clear, Xi Jinping's goal of reunification not being passed from generation to generation, as he said. They apparently devised kill lists now. I mean, it's pretty bad stuff. And this is why the Russia-China military relationship is so important. He wants to have Putin, at his back if he decides to, undertake a military action in Asia. So we're seeing that axis form. The geopolitics, I think, are very clear. We have to get the businesses on the right side. You brought up Ray Dalio, and, here's an example, I mean, just from last week in Beijing. I mean, what Bloomberg has said about Bridgewater, his firm, is that Bridgewater has been managing Chinese state money since 1993 and counts among its clients the Sovereign Wealth Fund, the $1 trillion China Investment Corporation, as well as the State Administration of Foreign Exchange, which manages foreign currency reserves. In total, Dalio's firm oversees about $5 billion for the two entities, making China one of its biggest clients by assets, according to people familiar with the firm. That's just in Bloomberg in 2021. So, we're on the wrong track. We have to get the businesses on the right side. The finance community has got to see the light on this and stop going in the wrong direction. Tim Cook talks about moving production out of China, but the Financial Times is showing us that the iPhone, the AirPods, Mac, and iPod are still going to be 90% plus manufactured in China by 2024, and he's talking about a symbiotic relationship with China. That's his words. So I don't see the business community doing the right thing. I don't see the finance community yet seeing the consequences for shareholders. I mean, it's, if Bridgewater is in fact managing Chinese government money, I mean, that's at a pretty bad end of the spectrum. But at the same time, simply making sure that we're stopping investments over there, that we have a different strategy towards that, that's not just led by Washington, but that's fully understood by Wall Street firms. I mean, we want to, I think, begin to rebuild the economic relationship with the rest of the world and reduce our reliance and connections with China. Well,
it's obviously all about the money for Tim Cook and Ray Dalio. They don't want that to stop. And I'm glad you mentioned the military, because there's an article by Matt Pottinger and John Pomfret in Foreign Affairs, and they say Chinese leader Xi Jinping is preparing China for war. And the world should take him seriously. That's the title of this article in Foreign Affairs. It's a must-read. Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman General Mark Milley is also warning about China's military buildup during the House Armed Services Committee hearing yesterday. Here's what he said. Watch this.
They have a national goal to be a global, to be the global co-equal with the United States and superior militarily by mid-century. They're on that path to do that, and that's really disturbing. And we're going to have to not only keep pace, but we have to outpace that, and that'll assure the peace.
And yet, all we keep hearing is the U.S. does not seek conflict with China. Jonathan, they're bringing conflict on a silver platter, and they're building up their military while we're talking about cutting defense spending.
That's right, Maria. And I wrote China's Vision of Victory, which really was the book on that. I mean, to explain their long-term strategies and plans, to explain their vision of 2049, of surpassing the United States, of building the world's preeminent military. I mean, that's all very clear. I mean, Xi Jinping's been talking about preparing to fight and win wars since about 2017 on a very regular basis. And nobody was saying this, years ago. But now, at least, I'm glad we're starting to see the realities here. And it's time for business and national security to get on the same page before it's too late.
Yeah. Well, the only way anyone who's not seen the reality of those corporate CEOs who want to sell to 1.4 billion people in China. They're walking on eggshells around Xi Jinping. Jonathan, thank you. We'll continue the conversation for sure.